See, that's funny because
these people should wash it more.
I wash my car more in the winter.
I just hate the cold. And it gets messy so quick. I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah,
I mean, how many can you do in an hour? Like, I think if you're pushing your capacity, you could do 3 in an hour if it ran all day long.
Yep. Most definitely where the boat storage currently is, you could definitely add storage facility. Now, who knows, right? Is boat storage more income? Is it less income?
Welcome back to the REI Hot Seat, reunited with Jake at last after a couple of weeks. Jake, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
So
how's it been? You lonely?
It's been lonely, yeah. Yeah. Anyways, so we did a couple solo episodes there. I did, and information based. Check them out if you haven't already. Yeah. And by the way,
good content.
Yeah,
it was really great content. So
I tried. Those are tricky. You really got to put some thought into to those episodes, and hopefully people are enjoying them. So today we're talking about car washes by popular demand. Because everybody loved the car wash episode.
Yeah. And everybody loved the second car wash episode.
Did we do 2 already?
We have, yeah.
Oh, goodness.
So
this is the third?
I think so. Yeah, this would be the third car wash.
I recall 2, but okay. Yeah. So let's say hypothetically we've done 3. But, okay, so this car wash, can we say where it is? Or
Niagara region.
Niagara region. Yeah. Okay, so car wash in the Niagara region.
And we're working on finalizing everything right now, guys. So that's why I just don't want to give addresses and all that right now.
Yeah.
But within a week's time, we'll be in a position where we can be very transparent about everything. So, again, at the end of the episode, we'll talk about it. But if you have questions, link below. We can talk about this car wash as well.
Cool. Okay. So high level, what is this?
Yeah. So this is a little bit, I don't know, it's called a medley of commercial use. So it's a really interesting site. It's about 2.5 acres of land. And it's basically, it has a mechanic on it. It has a secondary building which can also be used as storage or mechanic or something else.
So is that like industrial zoning?
It's industrial zoning, right? So you got 2 buildings industrial zoning, and then you have a 3-bay car wash, right? So coin operated 3-bay car wash. But wait, there's more. It also has 43 storage units.
Yep. 43 was it?
43.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. I just double checked the number. So it's
I thought it was less than that. Okay, so 43. So on my screen here, you'll see.
I think you said 36 or something like that.
I thought it was 36, but it's 43.
I just looked at it again.
Okay, so on my screen here, I have the breakdown. So the storage units. This came from the seller, right? These estimates. Yeah. So the seller said 6,000 estimate on a monthly for the storage units. They have like a boat storage at the back.
That's the other thing, right?
Outdoor boat storage.
Yeah, it's zoned for outdoor storage, right? So you don't need to be a rocket scientist to do boat storage. You literally just call the marina and say, hey,
plus you could do probably
a few boats here,
shipping containers. I mean, there's no shortage of ways you should be able to monetize.
There's plenty of land here to continue to grow that storage side of things. And I think shipping containers and cranking up the boat storage is actually a fantastic idea.
Yeah, right. So shipping containers is sort of a way to potentially expand what you're already getting from the self-storage facility. And I've seen the street view of this, and it's, looks like what you would expect to see at a self-storage facility, concrete and little mini garage doors that roll up doors.
Exactly.
So then they've got what they call the stone building, which they've got a mechanic in.
Yep.
They're kicking the current tenant out, but estimating $6,000 a month is good for that. And that's like a 6,000 square foot shop.
Yeah.
And I don't know what those go for. I don't know what's standard for that.
Yeah, they're asking $12 a square foot.
Which that makes about sense.
That checks out.
That makes sense?
Yep.
Okay. And then the metal building, is that smaller building? I think
it is smaller.
Yeah. What's the size of that?
I don't have the exact size on it. We're working through that right now.
Okay, so hypothetically about half the size, because they're estimating $3,000 a month.
I would say pretty much half the size. So let's call it 3,000 square feet.
Okay, so in that ballpark. Yep. And then the car wash, they're estimating $6,000 a month, which means that, for one, they're running it year round. And that's one of those things that I mean, initially I had to catch myself because I don't really wash my car much in the winter, but I do occasionally.
See, that's funny because
these people should wash it more.
I wash my car more in the winter.
I just hate the cold. And it gets messy so quick. I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah.
But in the summer, I wash my car way more.
Getting the salt off. I do
too.
It's all white because you're driving on the highway all day.
It's horrendously bad too for the undercarriage of the car. I hate seeing that rust come in. So, anyways, even on those parts where they think it doesn't matter.
I know. I got little nuts and bolts, so you can see it when I turn my wheels. There's rust on that. I go every time. I want to spray paint them. Yeah. Anyways, let's get back on topic.
It's time to do the underspray. I'm going to go do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so 3 car bays running year round, and they're estimating 6,000. Does that check out in your estimation? 6,000.
I think it's light. like, I'll be honest with you, Andrew, I think all the expenses are light on this.
All the incomes?
All the income, sorry.
Okay.
Are light. Apologies. Just based off of the other car washes we looked at.
Yeah.
Right now it's 3 bays.
So
how much action are you possibly getting in 3 bays?
Like,
So we
I
have to
mean,
be
how many can you
realistic.
do in an hour? Like, I think if you're pushing your capacity, you could do 3 in an hour if it ran all day long.
Yep.
So 3 in an hour, let's just say realistically 10 hours a day or 12. You could do 12 hours a day of operation. You're not really going to get 3 in an hour.
And a normal
but
bay,
times
what?
3.
It's $3 for 5 minutes.
It's a
I
lot.
just washed
It
my
runs
car the
out
other
so
day.
fast.
It was $3 for
runs
5
out so
minutes.
fast.
That's usually what like the minimum charge.
Let's say like 108 would be like capacity if you ran 12 hours straight.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're not going to get that. But even if you got like 50 people a day times their average spend, I mean, I'm never spending less than $20.
No,
Yeah.
every time I go, I
Yeah.
just let it roll.
That's insane to spend. You know, maybe you could spend 15 if you're being frugal. But, you know, 50 times 20. So you could make $1,000 a day. So if they're saying 6,000 in a month, that seems very reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe if you do some things with marketing, you could push that more. Like, I gotta be honest, when I heard this deal, I'm like, storage and car wash? That's like speaking my language.
Honestly, it's just a plot of land with a good zoning
Yeah.
that the seller took advantage of and said, "What?"
So the seller
how
did all
much-
this?
How much? The seller before my guy bought it did it,
Okay.
and then my guy bought it. He's owned it for a few years, but it's like, how much cash business can you possibly jam into 1 2-acre site? Like that's the kind
Is
of
it
the
all
mindset.
cash business? I mean, for sure, the car wash is.
Well, the
like,
car wash,
I love
the
that.
boats,
The
storage.
So you think there's some cash on the storage
all
side of
cash.
things? So
it's all cash.
so is that 2,000 understated potentially?
I think it all is.
So that's why you think it's understated, because there's some stuff that's not necessarily hitting this screen. We'll
Hitting
say
the books, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so but we are showing 23,000 here, and so that's 276 in a year. The sellers provided us with 36,000 as the annual tax figure. Insurance, I did a rough estimate at 6,000. I think that's probably in the ballpark, but we'd have to get an exact quote to know for sure. Maintenance, I got at 5%. Not going to budge on that. If you saw the pictures of this site, like there's a lot of stuff, and you know there are going to be things that are going to go. And
Look, there's always stuff to do, right?
Yeah,
And
so you need
a
to have
number
that in there.
That's a number that, like, I either use $850, $750 a door,
if that
right.
applies, that doesn't really apply here
or
very
I
well.
use 5%.
Yeah.
Right. And even 5% in some cases, depending on what you're covering, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's be realistic. You know, R&M is always understated,
Yeah.
right? Every time you look at these
Yeah.
performance from sellers, it's always
Yeah.
understated, right? Or they show you, hey, we just did a couple of these things this year, or fixed a light bulb, and it's like, yeah, but there's so much more that goes into it. It's all that little
it's
miscellaneous
and the deferred maintenance.
Yes, exactly.
The roof that comes up every 10 to 15, 20 years, that because you didn't pay for it last year or the year before doesn't mean it ain't coming.
Yeah. Stick to your guns.
yeah.
Keep your 5%.
Yeah,
in there.
5%.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a really rough property, I'll do like 8.
Yep.
But anyways, so I put 5% in here for management, because you're going to have to pay somebody on a very probably part-time basis to just tend to the car wash, but minimal. Like check the fluids, update them. I think that's very doable.
Yeah, there's really like two or three major jobs at a car wash, right? So number one is you got to make sure that you have your chemicals updated. So soaps,
Yeah.
right? Fluids, tire shine, whatever it may be. So that's probably the biggest and most
Yeah,
time
and that's
intensive,
checked what, weekly or every couple of
depending
days?
how busy you are.
Yeah.
Right? So for a 3-bay making $6,000 a month, every
Not-
6 months,
yeah,
go check
not-
on the soap. Right?
Not very
Like,
much, right? It's not really working
you
very
know,
much.
so that's the big one. The second one is cleaning the bays themselves. Right.
Mhm.
So when you drive in, you need to clean those, because people will wash their muddy trucks, their off-road vehicles, their dirt
Yeah.
bikes, and they get really muddy. So for like a good presentable car wash, you need somebody that goes in there, literally grabs the wand and just sprays the walls
Yeah,
down.
so they're going in
Just-
every couple of days to do that.
And that's usually every couple of days.
so
right?
spend a couple hours there every couple of days.
So a couple hours every couple of days.
Yeah.
And then lastly, you need somebody on call for when the coin machine breaks or
Yeah.
when the guy's credit card gets eaten.
So
or,
this is
you know.
this is one number here. I got it in at 5, which works out to 14,000 on the year. Maybe that needs some adjustment upward. That's something we could play with. We could call it 10. So sometimes, you know, when I want to come back to something, I might put yellow on it just so I know that's something to look at again.
And something else to throw out there, Andrew,
Yeah.
right? There's also 2 full-time tenants on site,
Yeah.
right? So perhaps you work a deal with one of the tenants.
Yeah.
Right. I know jumping back.
That's
quickly.
a big one. Yeah. The tenants are that's where you work out
Right.
that synergistic deal where they're there for them. If you offer them,
Maybe
X
it's
number of
$10 a square foot now instead of 12,
Yeah.
or you offer them $2 a square foot back.
Yeah.
So that you still show your numbers looking
Or
strong.
you just pay them a flat fee, you have a separate contract on the side.
That's
So
all, right?
I think that there's definitely a way to get it done in that ballpark.
Yep.
And I think that that's probably the approach.
Always. Like
Because they're there.
That's what I love about it, right? That's where I want to get creative and have a good time with these things and say, okay, how do we actually optimize it? Because just straight up going to hire a property manager at 5%, 10%, whatever it may be.
Well, no, you're not going to do that. But I mean, if you think about it, like it's not like you're hiring somebody who's working in an accountant's office and they're wearing a suit and tie. Like you're hiring a mechanic who's already wearing coveralls.
Yeah.
Are they going to mind going over and spraying out the bay?
Yeah.
No, they're going to be
Buddy,
good with that.
just top up the soap every once in a while
Yeah,
for me, right? Like it's just a simple thing,
Yeah.
And so for example, just going back to that other car wash we talked about, the first one actually, there was 2 bays there. One bay was operational, one wasn't.
Yeah.
And we actually rented that one, the non-operational bay to a detailer who is now the manager for that site.
Oh, so he just manages
So
it all.
he's there 9 to 5.
Yeah.
He does all the management, and then after hours, he's
Yeah.
on call if a coin gets stuck. kind of
You'd
thing.
be amazed at what you can do if you just offer somebody either a fixed rate or a piece of the action.
Yep.
Hey, you're here anyway. How about you look after it for me?
And that goes all the way
Yeah.
to residential, right? On-site
Yeah.
supers. That goes to
Yeah.
true office commercial.
Yeah.
One of the tenants can
Hey,
help
since
out.
you're already here,
Yep.
how about we do a win-win?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So then I've got 8,000 in here for utilities, pure guess. Hopefully I'm in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's only 3, like you figure both tenants are paying their own utilities. There's next to no utilities for the storage. It's outdoor. It's not climate controlled.
So you have the water for the car wash.
You got the water for the
The
car wash,
lighting.
which is why I put that up. The only heated space is the space behind the car wash,
Correct.
like that where the water is and
And
all
the
that.
soaps and stuff.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
does that sound light to you? Think it should be more than 8?
I think it's reasonable.
I think it's in the ballpark,
Right.
but I mean that is an estimate. Landscaping and snow, I've got 3,500. It is a bigger site, 2.5 acres. There's a lot of snow potentially. Could even be more than that. We could call it 4, but let's just leave it there for now. And then I have the price I'd love to get it at, but also knowing that it's not realistic, likely.
Yeah.
I read it. I'm like, I'd be interested at $2 million. But I think that, as you said, there's some things that are understated here.
Yeah.
And a lot of potential upward.
Yeah. And there's always angles to look at this thing, whether
Yeah.
that's, development play, adding more storage facilities, adding storage lockers, right? Like that's
Yeah.
that's why this site was interesting to me. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's
Is there really
it-
room to add? Physically, is there room? Like I didn't really look at an overhead of the site.
most definitely where the boat storage currently is, you could definitely add storage facility. Now, who knows, right? Is boat storage more income? Is it less income? I, not being a big boat guy, I look at it and say, no, I'd rather swap the boats for storage facility or shipping containers. That makes more sense
Yeah.
to me all day long.
So looking at this, some potential. I think there's a lot of potential to get more out of the existing assets that are already there
100%.
by pushing the car wash business, trying to get the word out about that.
Yeah.
And then as far as storage rates go, I don't know. I'd have to break it down. But if they're getting 6,000 a month over, we said 41 units, 43. So that's like 139. That sounds about right.
That's about right.
per
Yeah.
unit.
Yeah.
I thought storage had gone up, but if they're all like little 5x10 units,
Yeah.
then
$1.50.
I guess that makes
Right.
sense.
Call it $1.50,
Yeah.
$1.25, right?
So if this is a $3 million, and I know you hadn't even got to price with the seller yet. This is an off market. It's pretty fresh. But if it was a $3 million, that shows as a 6.3 cap. Now, is it really a 6.3 cap? Not if all those incomes are understated, and that's where the due diligence comes in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know where I'd love to get something like this. I mean, I'd be writing a check today if they said $2 million.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's it. But
Yeah.
now at $3 million, there is seller financing available here.
Yeah. What's the
Right.
seller financing they're offering?
Well, this guy owns it cash.
Like no loans. So you could potentially get
clear.
the seller to finance it at maybe what
50%, 65%.
65%. He won't get 75%.
Hey, what kind of deal are we talking, right?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Would he do
right?
like a 6% interest rate or something?
Yeah,
like that?
I think
Yeah.
5.5%, 6% for a first.
Yeah.
That's very fair. Interest only.
Yeah. So hypothetically, here's where it starts to look better, but you do have to come in with a pretty big down payment.
Yeah.
Is $6,900 cash flow a month. That's pretty awesome. Now, I mean, you got your land transfer, and then you've got your legal fees. I mean, legal fees on this, because it's commercial, are actually going to be more like probably like $5 to $9 grand.
75 to 10 is
yeah. Let's do $9 grand there. So you're like 1.1 million out of pocket to do that deal. I mean, you could look at doing.
What's your cash on cash there, though, right?
Yeah, what's your
Let's
cash
say
on
you
cash?
are $1 million.
Yeah, you're about a 7.47% cash on cash. So it's still, it's better than your savings account.
And that's with the current understated.
Understated. So yeah,
let's
that's
say
where
those
it gets
numbers
juicy.
go up 10% just based off of, right?
So let's say you can. So you say you go 1.1 times the revenue numbers that we had shown. Now all of a sudden the cap rate's jumping into the 7% territory. We're seeing $9,000 in cash flow a month. That's all right. And I've just got some conservative estimates in here, like a 1% annual appreciation. I think in the long run, we're looking at more like 2. That's what I've always done. I just kind of had it in there at 1.
And I get your reasoning behind the 1 or 2%. Like, I'm not going to argue on that.
I mean, I think long-term inflation, they're targeting 2. So that's kind of where I would sit.
That's like the bare minimum, right?
Yeah. Even though real estate's outperformed our stated inflation, but that's because our stated inflation is a joke. So anyways,
that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, a whole other one. Side note, really good episode that we should do is a gas station. We should definitely do one of those. I had a guy on my podcast do that.
We could definitely talk gas stations. I can bring one in next week.
All right. So
a couple things. So let's talk pros and cons here, right? Pro, I think there's a ton of opportunity to add value simply, right? You don't have to go and spend crazy money for development. You can add shipping containers. You can add more storage lockers. Right? You can turn the 2 buildings that exist currently into indoor storage, right? So this could truly just turn into a storage play.
Yes.
Right?
So you'd have to look at it like, what is storage fetch per square foot versus what is
run your numbers.
What is your, so I mean, if you think a 5x10 is a 50, so if that's $139, so equals 139 divided by 50 square feet, that's it's only $278 a square foot. So maybe that's the problem. Did I do that wrong? No.
I don't.
Yeah, if that's all they're getting, so $139 is what we figured by
but
by
heated indoor storage is going
to get more, much more. Yeah. So the commercial space or the industrial space for the mechanic is actually kind of lucrative at the $12 a square foot, unless of course you can do more on the heated,
which we can run a perform on separately, right?
But I think that does make sense in a way, because like, think about it, those are outdoor storage units. They're not
no electric.
They're not outdoor, but there's nothing going on.
There's no lighting, there's no heat. It's literally
it's just a
cinder
bunker.
block wall with a tin roof.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So that's what you're paying.
So it makes sense that it'd be lower. You're not actually serviced space there. It's cheaper to build that.
I love that, right?
Which is why the storage is so cool, because it's very cheap to build. Everybody needs it. Like, everybody has stuff.
And that's it, right? So like, we called this a car wash play. I actually see this as a storage play.
Car wash storage, you could theoretically add more car wash bays, but you'd have to go through the whole site plan thing.
I'd go in there. I'd run the numbers.
I'd be most keen on storage of getting shipping containers and then renting them out as more storage. And you could probably get for a shipping container quite a bit. Like, we're talking more like $1,000 a month. I think
for sure.
Maybe not that much. Depends on the area.
Here's the thing: like, you can just stack shipping containers up and start renting out just the whole container, right? So now people can store cars in there. They can do what they want, right?
Yeah.
So just again,
exactly. That's
no
what I mean.
Heat, no power, or whatever. But you just have those containers at the back.
And what do you need to do? You need to get some security cameras.
Which
keep an eye on your site.
They did that already. So I actually spoke with them. They put a gate up. So now it's fob entry secured.
Fob entries. Okay.
With cameras all around.
Yeah. So that's one of the big things to get people to want to store with you. And some of the other risks I wanted to go over is environmental. Like,
and that's what the con. I was going to get to the con.
Yeah, the environmental thing. Like, you have a lot of dirty business. We talked about this. You got car wash, which is using chemicals. You got mechanics, which are using chemicals. Storage is pretty clean. But what's the play there? I mean, it sounds like this is not going to be through the bank. Regardless, when you're trying to buy a business like this, it's probably going to be easier to do it private.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Yeah. So with these car washes, with these storage facilities, businesses, things like this, when you're buying them in this type of condition, right? We're not talking stabilized, operated by a big conglomerate. Like, we're talking mom and pop, right? Kind of Mickey Mouse, right? It's up to you now to do the value add and make it better, right? It's difficult to get these things financed. You're not coming in and getting 75% loan value.
Well, and how is, and quite frankly, I don't have any experience financing something like that that's dirty and not likely to be cleaned up, because if you have like, and I don't know what they're going to do as part of a phase 2, or if like, are they going to test under the slab in the mechanics bay?
They could, yeah. So here's the thing. It completely depends on what the phase 1 recommends.
Yeah, so phase 1's always going to recommend.
There's a mechanic on site, so they're going to recommend a phase 2. We can.
So then you're going to get in, potentially looking at the floor, and then there's going to be remediation.
Not always. Not always. No.
Okay.
So I've done several deals, Andrew, where there was car mechanics in the area, historical and existing.
Yeah.
And there was no contaminants on our site.
No contaminants.
Right? Because what it comes down to is you have subsurface contamination. So you have soil contamination, which is one thing. But the most important, and what most of the environmental reports look at, is the groundwater contaminant.
Okay.
Because soil doesn't move. Soil's soil.
Soil's going to stay.
Groundwater flows. Right.
Okay.
So that's where you get into risk management issues, where your mechanic water now has gone underground and flowed under to the residential neighborhood.
Yeah, that's what they want.
And now there's actual like issues, like serious issues.
Okay.
Right. So my thing is, I would go in here and look at it, and they say, look, you got some soil contaminants. Okay, great. Right. You can do a rubber membrane to stop the VOCs. You're good. Let's move on, kind of thing. Like, that's very simple remediation. We've done that before.
Okay.
Right. So basically, we dug up a basement of an existing commercial. Okay. We poured basically rubber with a vent outside.
Okay.
And then re-poured the concrete.
Interesting.
So basically, the VOCs would come up, hit the rubber,
and then just go
out the vent.
Yeah.
And then nothing would come through our building. And that wasn't outrageously expensive. Like, for that deal, it was $100K pretty much. And and now we have a great deal because it was contaminated.
So I guess just like the mindset, if you're gonna have a property like this, you got to kind of be prepared for that outcome. You have to be prepared. In my mind, this isn't advice, this is how I would approach it. I'd be prepared to stay private financing forever on that deal.
Yes. And with many car washes, that might be the case, or cash. Right.
Yeah.
That's why it's so hard to obtain these car washes, because most of the time it's cash. The buyers are all cash. Right. Or
you can see why there'd be
very low financing terms, 40%, 50%. Right?
Yeah, you could see why a lot of people would want this business, because there's a lot of opportunity to scale the income.
Yep.
And as you said, there's a lot of actual physical cash, which, I mean, people like that.
Yep.
For some reason, I don't know why.
Here's the thing, right? So you're a guy, you've owned a building, or you're a person, you've owned a building for X amount of years, right? You go sell your building, you cash out, you take $2 million out of your building after whatever. Right?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with that cash? You're going to go buy another building, or you're going to go buy something like this now, where this is a hobby project. You can retire on the cash flow from this thing and just chill.
So looking at this, you got about a 15% return, 9.7% cash on cash. If you were to get the 65% VTB, 5.5% interest rate. Now you can make that ROI look better if you could maybe get somebody to come in, give you 20%, maybe on a second mortgage, maybe on a P note, or what have you. Say we could make that happen at 12%. You can make that return go up a bit, 18. And then the real play, I think, as we've discussed, is if you can add to that income line. That's when you start making that return go crazy.
Yeah.
So that's the way I would look at this deal. I think it's cool. Is this, like, how far along are you in discussions with the seller? Is he coming into an area for a purchase price that he's looking for?
Yeah, we're working through it right now. Basically, we have the access to sell this site if we want to. We're just trying to fine tune everything, get in line with our numbers, put together basically what you and I discussed today. And that's actually why I wanted to do this with you today. It was almost to have like a peer review on kind of the numbers and my thoughts and what we're looking at.
Yeah.
And go through this opportunity, right? So there is a deal here. We just got to see what we can do. And I think the VTB really makes or breaks that deal.
And real quick, super succinct, what kind of buyer would be qualified to buy this?
So, like, honestly, here's the thing: any buyer could buy this. How do you want to structure it is the question.
Yeah, but I mean, so if I've got one duplex and I got 150 income or equity in it, I'm not going to be able to leverage that and do this deal.
No, right? And so, but here's the thing, right? So maybe you bring in some family members.
Yeah.
Right? You put a bit of cash together each, you take that 50% VTB for 5 years and you run with it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's an option, but no, I would say the buyer for this does have to be cash heavy.
Yeah.
Right? You're no matter what, you're looking at 35% to 50% down on this type of asset class.
Yeah, 35 is what you should expect, and then maybe even more.
Right. So the buyer, have that either liquid or have that in an asset that you could refinance or sell and move into this.
Yeah.
But I think the buyer for this is somebody who's looking for that cash business, looking for something a little bit more creative.
Yeah.
And, perhaps owns some multifamily already and is just looking to divest a little bit. Like I also wouldn't say this should be your first purchase or your only purchase.
No.
Because there's higher risk with this type of asset,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is something that could complement your portfolio.
Yeah.
And not be the only asset in your portfolio.
Yeah, it's not going to be your first purchase,
No.
but it's a really cool potential. Definitely one worth looking at and investigating further, in my opinion. So no matter what, we could never have covered the full due diligence on this. This is a due diligence heavy purchase.
Yep.
So if you're interested in learning more about this, I'm going to go ahead and take the words out of Jake's mouth. There's a link below, and if you enter your information, basically you can get on a call with one of Jake's team and have a chat with them and figure out next steps to learn more about this.
Right on.
So
said it well.
With that said, if you made it this far, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave us a comment, let us know what types of deals you want to know more about, what types of deals you want to see, and then of course come out to our meetup, and that'll probably be happening the same day this is posting. So hopefully you're there.
And we'll talk some car washes.
Sounds good. All right, thanks guys.
Thanks.